Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you doing, folks? This is Glen Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, and this is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. And again, I'm your host, Glen Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, and I got a topic today that I think is so necessary to have a conversation right about now, in this time and in this market and what we got going on in today's market and different things that are happening. So we're going to get right into it. All right, welcome back, folks. Listen, I got a topic today that's been actually on my mind. I have listened to a few people, had a conversation with a couple people about this particular topic, about what's going on with the MAO formula and why is there so many people talking about the MAO formula not any longer being applicable because of the way the market has changed, the way the market has shifted, and how it being such a seller's market, how people are saying that the numbers don't apply anymore, or the MAO formula doesn't apply anymore. And I find that interesting because what I believe, and of course, again, the views and opinions of the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show that are expressed by me when I'm doing the show are mine and mine alone. Hold on, let me see. Somebody's asking. Okay, yes, automatically starts at noon. All right, yes, somebody was asking how they can get in. Welcome, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So yeah, some people were saying that the MAO formula is no longer applicable. All right, so for those of you who don't know, let's talk about what the MAO formula is. The MAO formula, or MAO in itself, is MAO, maximum allowable offer. And this is a formula that we've used for quite some time. I don't know if it's always been known as a formula. The name of it becoming a formula came sometime later. I don't know who coined the phrase, but it's still brilliant. And maximum allowable offer is the amount that you should or somewhere roundabout it, you should stick within when making an offer on a property. Now, let's talk about how we get the MAO formula. The MAO formula is derived of the after repair value. Let's say it's the most you should offer is derived of the after repair value, or 70%. The formula now, it used to be 65. The formula now is 70% of the after repair value minus the repair cost, right? So for example, if it's $100,000 after repair value, 70% of that is $70,000. If the repairs are $20,000, then your MAO is $50,000. Right? Drop it in the chat below if you didn't get that. I'm always reminded I have to tell you all to like, share, and subscribe. I'm used to doing this on Facebook and Facebook alone many times. Now it's going to YouTube, so I got to remember to say like, share, and subscribe. And let's see if we have our so we definitely have to put this up. So I'm reminded that the MAO formula, again, is something that people are saying that we're not supposed to use, or not that we're not supposed to use, that people are saying that the MAO formula is no longer applicable, right? And I find that interesting that people would say that, because it's something, like I said, we've used for a long time. And people are saying that the MAO formula doesn't work anymore because of the market, the way the market is set up now. And again, I call BS. I call BS. And I say that because the formula is something I don't think people are clear on why we use it. All right, so for those of you that are just joining, I'm going to go over it again real quickly. We're talking about, is the MAO formula dead? What's the MAO formula? The MAO formula is the after repair value minus 70%, or 70% of the after repair value minus the repair cost. So again, the example is, If the after repair value based on good comps is $100,000, then 70% of that is what typically is what we go by, 70% minus the repair cost. So if the repair cost is $20,000, the maximum allowable offer is $50,000. Right? Now, in that, this is where I think a lot of the confusion is happening. And I'll call it confusion because that's what I choose to call it. The confusion is happening because people have begun to have an idea that there should be a set amount of how much you should expect to make per deal. Right? Some people teach you should expect to make $10,000 every single deal. Some people teach you should expect to make $15,000 every single deal. Some people teach you should make $20,000 every single day. You get where I'm going. So in the MAO situation, people say it doesn't work because if your maximum allowable offer is $50,000 in that example that I gave, then that means if you're going to try and make $10,000, you can only offer the seller 40. Okay. Now, I'm okay with that if it makes sense. If you can negotiate that. If it makes sense, then make your money. I'm 100% on board with that. If you can get $10,000 out of a deal and it makes sense for the seller to take that and nobody's being taken advantage of, let's keep it real. If it makes sense, nobody's being taken advantage of, and it makes sense for the buyer to buy at whatever price you set for them, make your money. I'm cool with that. But when you are not properly negotiating from the beginning, and now that $10,000 doesn't work for this 70% after repair value formula, if your fee has to be reduced, then it's okay to reduce it, right? Some people will tell you, no, stick to the amount of money that you want to make and don't be flexible. I think that's ridiculous. And I say that because if you can make it, make it. But if it's not room and it doesn't make sense, then have some flexibility, right? Even if you're negotiating the amount on the front end with the seller, and on the front end, you can get $5,000 with the seller, right? In that maximum allowable situation, and you can negotiate $5,000 fee in there. And then you sell that fee to the owner, to the rehabber, in the market. Okay, we're sellers. We become sellers as wholesalers. In the market will bear the possibility of increasing the price on the buy side when you're the seller, right? The market will bear the possibility of that. It's not set in stone, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be realistic and have some flexibility, right? So if you can buy $5,000 on the front end and you can buy $5,000 on the back end, then you can make your $10,000, but make it make sense, right? People are teaching that you have to make $10,000 no matter what. They're saying that in many cases, if you're going to make the MAO formula work, you have to make it work with the seller. Or if the seller is not willing to negotiate on their price because it's a seller's market, then you have to mark it up on the back end with a buyer. All of that is still within the realm of possibility. I want to emphasize it's in the realm of possibility, but it doesn't have to be set in stone, right? Because some investors, including myself, that buy to fix and sell or buy to fix and hold, understand that there might be a possibility that we have to increase the amount that we're willing to pay. I'm good with that. I want to make sure you hear me. I'm not killing the idea of getting outside of the MAO formula. I'm not killing the idea, but the MAO formula is not dead. That's what I want to make sure I'm clear on. The MAO formula is not dead. It still can be used as a basis of how we're looking at making money on deals. Because again, buyers do understand, for the most part, that there has to be some flexibility on the buying side. That doesn't mean we do away with the formula altogether, right? So for example, I understand that I might have to come within 80% or 75%, right? But for me, the way I buy, my baseline is I have to have a 30% margin. I typically like to have a 30% margin That's where the 70% ARV comes in place for me, right? Many investors are in the same ballpark of that. They're in the same ballpark of wanting to be sure that they can make a minimum or have a minimum of 30% gross profit. Gross profit meaning after costs, they still can potentially make 15% net profit, right? If you don't understand, please ask me the question and I'll clear that up for you. But I want to make sure people understand that the MAO formula in and of itself is not dead. Do you have to make the adjustments in some cases? Yes. For example, you go into Walmart. Cereal used to be cereal used to be $5. I ain't bought cereal in a while. Cereal used to be $5. Now it's $7. That's inflation. The price has increased, right? But you don't get to go into Walmart and say, I want to negotiate the price of these cereal. It used to be $5, now it's $7. I only want to pay $6. That's not how that works, right? But in business, we have flexibility. We have we have the ability to have a meeting of the minds. And in that meeting of the minds, the MAO formula doesn't get just thrown out of the window. We say, okay, I can be flexible as the buyer, you can be flexible as the seller, and we work to make it work together. So we still create win-win-win situations or win-win-win scenarios so that everybody can, as my man John Stafford says, everybody can eat. But we don't get into the mindset of that if it doesn't work my way, then there's no way. And I believe that that's what's being taught when people are talking about the MAO formula no longer works. Now, if it's a flexibility situation and people are not willing to be flexible, then yeah, of course it's not working, right? But if you have it where there is a scenario where people can be flexible, then you can fudge the MAO formula to a degree. But it doesn't mean that it automatically goes away, right? Now, I've had a situation. Now, most of our, I mean, I'm gonna be real. Most of the properties that I bought recently, in most recent times, have, I mean, there was no MAO formula factor in there because most of them I bought on seller financing, right? And I bought at retail. I bought above retail. So there's no MAO formula situation that works in those, but it works out because eventually when I go to refi after the time that I've had, then I still will have a gross profit margin of 70%. Let me give you an example. Just closed on a 3-unit in Detroit week ago, 2 weeks ago. Bought it above retail. So right now, I probably paid $15,000 over retail. But I have it on a 6-year note where it balloons in 6 years. In 6 years, the value will increase because of where it is. The value will increase 30, 40% in 6 years, potentially for the type of property and where it is. Right now, that's significantly higher than the average annual rate of property increase. So it's significantly higher, but because of where it is, the condition, and the possible improvements, then it can increase significantly. And in that, I will still get my MAO formula. So it has to make sense. Does it make sense for some buyers to buy at 85% of the after repair value? Maybe it does, depending on what they're anticipating the possibility. Now, I'm not talking about speculating value increases for a retail sale. When you're speculating that the value will increase, well, let me change that. Let me make sure you're clear on what I'm saying. When you buy at 85% based on the time that it takes you to fix it and flip it, and that being 6 months, 9 months, you're speculating that you can get a significant price increase in 6 to 9 months. I wouldn't sign up for that class. I wouldn't subscribe to that theory. Has it been happening? Absolutely, it's been happening. But I wouldn't hang my hat on the possibility of that continuing to be the norm, right? That happens because that has happened because of the market, what the market has bared. The market has bared $15, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 of people paying over asking price. That's just been what's happening. It's a great thing for many people. I mean, it's a great thing for me because, my value on my properties haven't significantly increased. However, it's not something where you go and look at the comps and say, the comp said that this house is going to is worth $250,000 today. I'm guessing in 6 months I can get a $50,000 over asking price offer. Maybe, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that, right? I wouldn't expect that to be set in stone. Is it possible? Yes, there's quite a bit of a possibility. Even in the market, even though some things have slowed down a little bit and all the craziness has slowed down a bit, and there's still a possibility of that happening, depending on where it is, what's going on, and what type of improvements have been done, right? It's possible, but I wouldn't say speculate. I wouldn't say, it's not a set in stone speculation that I would live by, right? Now, the MAO formula, let's talk about that again. I have had some people tell me about scenarios where they have had people who do not consider the repair cost in the MAO formula. I have heard people say that we don't need to know the repair cost, or as a wholesaler, they don't need to know the repair cost. And this is an argument that I'll stand up and fight as well. I think that everyone that's involved in the transaction should have some idea of the repair cost. Not everybody has to go out and be a contractor and know how much the wood and lumber cost and how much, fixtures cost. I'm not saying you have to know all of the specific details of that, but you should have some idea, right? What is the ballpark? Because if you're not understanding those numbers, if people say that you don't have to understand the cost of repairs, I'm trying to be clear. I need to be clear on how are you justifying the amount that you're making on a deal. For example, if someone says that I'm going to make $50,000, I'm going to make $20,000 on a wholesale deal. Once someone says that, my question then is how? Well, they're going to just set that as their fee. So when the deal closes, they'll get a check for $20,000. How? If you don't know what the numbers are, and everybody that does, well, most of the people that I believe that know what they're doing, that know anything about doing deals, when they say, I'll do the deal, if the numbers make sense. If the numbers make sense, because there is a formula. There is a formula to doing deals. That's why the numbers make sense. And the numbers make sense based on what the after repair value. And think about it, guys. I want to make sure we're clear. These numbers are not numbers that we make up in our mind to hopefully fly. Or at least I don't. Some people do. These numbers are numbers that are set by what the industry will allow, right? What is an ARV? An ARV is the after repair value. How do you come to the ARV? The ARV is designated by what comps have sold in the neighborhood, in and around the neighborhood, quarter mile, maybe half a mile. I wouldn't go too much further than that, right? What are the finishes? What is apples for apples? That's where you get your ARV, right? Some people come up with an amount way above the ARV, and I don't know how they justify that. So let's say they maybe come within the ARV, right? And then they have to look at what it's going to cost to repair this place. Some people say the wholesaler doesn't need to know that because the person that's going to buy it and fix it up will determine that. Okay, fine. How are you determining how much you get paid in that scenario? Okay, I'm going to make $20,000 on this deal. Okay, let's say that. How do you know how much to offer the seller in order for you to make $20,000? You don't know, because you don't know how much it costs to repair it. You're not clear on your ARV. How do you know that, or how do you justify getting a significant fee on a deal where you clearly have not done very much research, very much work, And I say that this is what's happening in the real estate market as it relates to wholesaling or even fixing and flipping in many cases, where people are teaching people that they don't have to know anything and they can come in with the lifestyle of the rich and famous mentality and make $20,000 on every single deal. Help me make it make sense, somebody. Somebody help me make it make sense. I do realize that I'm not the only one that does this business. And, there are some people that know a lot more than I do. So I would be open to hearing from those people who know a lot more than I do to help me understand how, if you don't know the numbers, how you can justify a significant high fee on getting a deal closed, right? I'd be open to anybody that would chime in and tell me, what their thoughts are on that and how that all comes together, right? But as far as where I am and as far as the time that I've been doing this, I am standing on and standing by that there is not very many different ways. I always say real estate in itself is cyclical. However, uh, and that just means that the business is ever changing. The business is ever changing because regulations and different things are ever changing. But the fundamentals of real estate, in my opinion, hardly ever change. What do I mean by that? The numbers are the numbers. 1 + 1 = 2 most of the time. Sometimes 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4. I'm joking, of course, but 1 + 1 = 2 most of the time. So the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers don't necessarily change. The numbers, as it relates to how it makes sense to make a deal happen, right? Now, again, where 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 is that there is an anomaly where you can have a situation where you make a $20,000 fee without knowing the numbers. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but does it stand a chance to be a long-lasting way of doing business, right? I say that people that look at that way of doing business where they don't have to know the numbers and those things don't have to make sense, they're rushing what I consider to be rushing the bubble. They're rushing, and it won't be another market crash like we've had before, like some people have speculated, but they're rushing the way that things will turn around in the real estate market. I mean, we've been riding a wave that has been unbelievable over these last couple of years, right? People have been speculating a bubble bursting for the last 5 years, 5, 6 years, right? But we've had a significant run and we've done well, many of us, in the real estate investing arena. However, it's not going to last forever, right? So if you made good money doing wholesaling during this time, I say great. However, if you haven't truly educated yourself on the right way to do this thing, and I'm not saying that my way is the only way and my way is the only right way, but I believe that if we don't stick to some type of formula, if we don't stick to the basics, and we don't stick to the fundamentals, there's going to be a lot of people, and it has been, that I've seen come into the business with this something for nothing mentality, and it's going to be a situation where things get tossed in the fire for all of us, right? Look at different states that are now starting to regulate the way we do business. They're regulating the wholesaling business, right? They're bringing about where, one state you have to have a license to wholesale a deal. Why? Why does that make sense? How is a license going to determine whether or not you can wholesale a deal? So we've gotten to a situation where now we're required to have a license to buy a property and sell it to someone else. I'm like, what is that? What is that? Why do we have to have a license to buy a property and sell it to someone else? I don't get it. Can somebody help me understand why that makes sense? Right. But because of the way people have been doing business, these regulations are coming into play. They're saying we're not responsible enough business owners for us to do the right thing. So the powers that be, have to come in and regulate how we do business because we're not smart enough to do it right, is what I imagine what they're thinking, right? There's been an ordinance I haven't checked it lately. I don't know if anything's changed as of late. There's been an ordinance here in Atlanta. The city of Atlanta has said you can't call people more than once or more than 2 times, I guess, about a property that they have for sale in the city of Atlanta. You can't call people more than once. You can't call people more than twice. Because why? Because people are harassing people. People are saying, slanderous things to people when they call them up instead of having a conversation with people. So that I guess there have been complaints of people calling so many times, and the solicitations are overwhelming for some of these people. So they want people to stop bothering them about the houses that they have for sale, right? Okay, let's say that's a good percentage of those people. What about the remaining people who are in situations that need help, that want to have somebody call them, that can't wait till someone reaches out to them to share with them what their potential issues are, right? They're not always knowing, people don't always know that there's an option for them when they're faced with a situation. So when, and I've had several conversations with people that didn't know that someone can make the payment to stop the foreclosure for them, right? Had I not reached out to them and had that conversation, they may not have known that that was something that was even possible for them, right? So how do we get to a situation where we minimize the necessity for the government, how some of you are about the government, the government to stop regulating the way we do business or the way we help people, right? And I think that's what's come to a point of misunderstanding, is that this business is about really helping people, right? Yeah, of course we have to make money, yeah, because it's what we do is worth the money that we make in many cases. In many cases, not all cases. Some people, they really want to have, make money for nothing. They want to get paid without doing nothing. But I think for the most part, many of us understand that what we do is to help people in their situations, right? Distress situations, probate situations, absentee owners, landlord, disgruntled landlords, those types of situations. People need help in those situations, right? And we are the ones that provide the service. For those of us who do it with some level of couth, I'll call it, we are the ones that are responsible for helping people in these situations, right? Otherwise, again, it's going to be a situation where everything is regulated, and many people that know how to do this business in the way that keeps it consistent will now have to suffer the regulations that have been caused by the people who don't know what they're doing, right? So that's I just want to put that out there. So I want to talk about this this message that's on the bottom of the screen now. We have $100,000 guarantee for people who are interested in learning to invest in real estate. We're partnering with you for an entire year, and we want to show you how to do this business the right way. So I'm going to play a clip real quick, and I'll be right back after these. Hey, what's happening, folks? Many experts will tell you that you can get into the business of real estate investing with no money and no credit. And the question I ask is, if you bought into that, how's that working out for you? Right? My name is Glen, Glasper, and I've been in this business for 23 years. And what I find is most of the people that get into this business with that type of mentality, only 0.001% of them have any level of success, or let alone close a deal. Most of the people that become successful understand the importance of leveraging credit and leveraging money, as well as leveraging time, and not just doing one deal. If that's you, I created a video on how you can become successful in real estate investing. Now, this is not for the people who don't want to invest any money or don't want to invest any credit. This is not for the easy crowd. This is for the people who are open to investing and open to leveraging their resources. If that's you, go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll certainly see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link. Did you hear me? I said click on the link. See you on the other side. Did you click on the link? I always crack up when I see that. But you got to click on the link to know what's going on. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting that, like I said, so many people get into this business, and many folks have sold people on the idea that you can do it with no money, no credit. And again, I want to make sure I tell you always, I got to follow that with saying that you can, but how? That then becomes the question. How do you do it with no money? How do you do it with no credit? It's not the what, it's the how. Um, but as many people say, if you got a strong enough why, the how will figure itself out. That's where I was when I started 23 years ago. I had a strong enough why. I was homeless. I was homeless, and my why was I needed to get a place to stay, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't have any credit. So I had a strong enough why, so I got the how down and figured it out. But it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to figure out how. Um, but after that, I continued to do it, and here I am today. Now, and many people will say, if they want to get into the business with no money, no credit, how can they do it? Especially with the way the information that's available today. There's YouTube, there's Google, there's so many different things that there is a way for you to get in with no money, no credit. The only thing I say is that the information that you're studying, make sure you get an understanding of the sequential way that it is being shared. Um, let's see. Somebody asked a question. We have the solutions. Now, the solutions of the people of a lot of people with problems. We in the business to help. Yes, indeed. Tell them, Shalette. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. uh, my man Mike says, need to who wrapped your car like that? Need to get my truck wrapped. Shoot me a DM, Mike. I'll be sure to share that information with you. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, so many people get into the business with the no money, no credit idea. And again, it is quite possible. However, you have to know what you're doing, or you can lose your shirt or lose your reputation, right? There's one of the biggest things. The biggest thing I say is losing your reputation in this business. Um, and that goes a long way with the way things are done nowadays. Um, So back to this MAO formula situation. I want to hear from some of you all that might be tuning in. Drop it in the comments what your thoughts are about the MAO formula. Those that know and maybe those that don't know. So if you have questions about the MAO formula, go ahead and drop that in the comments. If you are an advocate or non-advocate for the MAO formula, I'd like to hear from you as well. I'd like to hear from you all that say that maybe the MAO formula is not necessary. Is not necessary. And I know it will probably seem that the way that I described a lot of what I've talked about, it would seem as if the MAO formula is not necessary. But I say that because I want to make sure I'm clear. The information, the way I described it, is purely speculative, right? We don't always want to leave our businesses up to chance. And I say, if we look at the MAO formula as being optional, or look at the MAO formula as being dead, and we're no longer specifically looking at the numbers, then we leave things up to chance, right? There is no hard factual data of why we should be doing things the way we do it. That's why it boggles my mind when people say, I don't know how, I don't have to know repair cost, right? I can't, for anything that is missing in the way a deal is done as it relates to how the numbers work. If there's any piece of that formula that's missing, I don't know how you're justifying your fee. I don't know how you're justifying your offer to the seller. And I don't know how you're justifying what you're trying to sell to the buyer. If any of those pieces of information are missing, I have Bernardo. Bernardo, I'll stick to that. I don't want to mess up you. I don't want to butcher your last name. Bernardo says, "What is mayo? It's the stuff you put on your sandwich." No, I'm kidding. Mayo is maximum allowable offer. Maximum allowable offer. And I'll go through that again. Maximum allowable offer is calculated by the ARV, or 70% of the ARV, which is the after repair value, which means the actual value of properties that are selling in the neighborhood, not a speculative value, or not a hope. I hope it'll be $50,000 more, but an actual value that's proven that properties have sold for in the neighborhood, right? That's the ARV, that's the after repair value. 70% of that amount, or those amounts, when you come up with a specific figure, right, or a roundabout figure, 70% of that amount minus the cost of repairs, an estimated cost of repairs, is the maximum allowable offer for a for an investment property, the maximum allowable offer that should be made to the seller. Now, I want to clear something up, right? It is the maximum allowable offer. It's maximum allowable. That doesn't mean you can't offer less. So if the maximum allowable is 50, you can still offer 40. You can still offer 30. You can offer 20 if it makes sense. The maximum allowable offer would be the 50. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. All right, because some people say, oh, Glenn said you have to offer 50. No, it's the maximum allowable offer. You should not, as much as possible, go above the maximum allowable offer. You can to have some flexibility. In this business, everything is negotiable, right? You can. It's not set in stone, so you can go above it, but make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. Make it make sense. It has to be reasonable for all parties involved, for the seller, you, the wholesaler, as well as the investor that's going to take on the responsibility. This is, I think, the other thing that people miss. If you're doing business and you're a service provider, that's what I consider us. We're solutions and service providers. As a wholesaler, you're solutions and service provider. Solutions and service provider. You're providing a solution to the seller. You're providing a service to the buyer. If you don't come with that mentality, I don't know how you're going to last in this business, right? You're coming with a solution for your seller, and you're coming with a solution for your buyer, right? And the solution for the seller is helping them in a potential distress situation that they may be in. A service for your buyer is providing them with a product, a property, a product that would make sense for them to make money on. Some people don't care if the investor makes money, right? But how are you providing a service to the investor if you don't care, or at least have some input or some hope? Well, I can't say hope. If you don't have if you don't care about their potential outcome, right? Because you're potentially only gonna provide them a service once if you don't care what their outcome is. Some people will say, I don't care if an investor pays 85 or 90% of the after repair value. I don't care. I don't care if their profit margin is only 15%. I don't care if their profit margin is only 5 or 10%, right? And I'm not saying you have to be, you don't have to really buy into it, but at least have some idea of what potentially you are providing to your buyer as a service, because that could be a repeat customer. Okay, that could be a repeat customer. So when you say, okay, I'm going to provide my buyer a product that fits within this MAO formula, or somewhere roundabout, or somewhere as close as possible that fits within this MAO formula, when they buy this property, take on the headache or the responsibility of fixing it up, and then turning around and selling it in the retail market, and then they make money, guess what they're going to probably do with that money, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, guess what they're going to probably do with that money? They're going to be looking to buy another property to do this process over again. And if you provide a good service or a good product to them, guess who is highly likely to be the person that gets to sell them another property? If you have a little bit of care about what their outcome is. Shalette says, that's crazy. If you don't care, you will never last. And I 110% agree, right? And these are not the things, I'll be honest, I don't see that these being the things that many people pay attention to, right? Many people get into this business with the idea that it only matters if they get a check. Okay, that's okay. I mean, if that works for you, that's okay, right? But I can't see, in my opinion, having the person having integrity if they're not looking to do the best that they can. It doesn't always work out. I get it. But if you're not looking at least to do the best that you can to provide a win-win-win solution or situation for all parties involved, I can't see you lasting in the business of real estate investing. The business is built on relationship and customers, buyer coming back. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 110%. Right? And I think that's what gets missed in the way our business should be done. I also want to give an example of a person that I worked with some time ago that actually came back as a repeat client. And I'll let her share her story. I'll be right back. How you doing, folks? This is Glen Glasper with Real Life Real Estate Investing, and I'm here with my partner, Latanya Saunderson. Can I say of the Weave Shop? Sure. Okay. And we actually just closed on our first of many deals together.
Well, no. Let me correct you. It's not our first.
You're absolutely right.
It's actually our second.
Right.
It's our second deal. It just was a little time.
Time in between.
Yes. But we're back. But I'm excited to be working with Glen again. I've been knowing him for years, and he's been doing real estate investing, for the last 23 years. 23 years? Oh, wow. Wow, 23 years. So it's been an awesome experience. I'm so excited. He's very knowledgeable and thorough. I wouldn't want to have worked with anybody else other than him, just because I've been knowing him as well, and he's just shown in every way that he knows what he's doing. He's very, very, very hands-on and detailed, and that just really means a lot to me. You know, I could invest my money in different ways, but I definitely chose to trust in Glen and real estate investing. And so I'm just excited for 2022 and what's to come. Of course, this is the second one of many to come.
Definitely. So she was supposed to say real life real estate investing, but that's okay. So Latanya and I, we worked together years ago, and she was actually getting started in wholesaling, and we closed our deal. We closed the first deal that she did, and she made pretty good money on that. But life happens. Life happens to us all. So she went back and was doing some other things. And as a matter of fact, she's a salon owner. So shout out to the Weave Shop. So she's a salon owner, and she had several different things going on with that business. So she got out of the business of real estate for some time. And when she decided that it was time for her to get back in again, she came back so we can work together. That is an example, and that's how I look at an example of having a repeat relationship, a repeat partner, right? She's going to continuously be a repeat partner because of how I cared that she made money the first time and this time as well, right? And I think that's the thing often that gets missed is looking at the reputation of relationships. Now, she's been knowing that I've been doing this for some time, but she looked at the time that we worked together before, I guess. She said 8 years, but I've been around for a little bit longer than that. And I think that if you do business the right way and you help people the best way you can, then that's where your longevity comes in. Will there be issues? Of course. Will there be mistakes made? Of course, right? I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that the business is perfect. But I'm just saying that if you do the best you can to serve people in the best way you possibly can and not just be out for self, then that's where your longevity comes in. That's where your ability to be able to continuously generate income. Like some people get in the business and they go for self and they make their $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or whatever it is they do on a couple of deals. They get a bad reputation and they start piggybacking on other people's deals and start daisy chaining on other people's deals. And I'll explain that for those of you that are not familiar with that. They start doing all sorts of things just to make a buck, right? Um, but then they don't last. So when the market shifts, then they're back to doing whatever it was that they were doing before. No longevity, no, you know, no relationships, because they burned bridges because of how they were doing business. I say if you stick to the fundamentals, at the very least, stick to the fundamentals, continue to do business the way it should be done. Again, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I've made some mistakes. Uh, I messed up some deals, but I've been in this business long enough to know that there are things that can be done uh, with integrity to get things right. Right. When I got started a long time ago, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no, I didn't have a mentor until I eventually got to the point of letting somebody help me. I'll say that because although I could let somebody help me, I didn't want to because thought I had it all figured out. And in me thinking that I had it all figured out was where I made several mistakes to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right. Uh, where in many of those cases, I didn't care about a MAO formula because I said it didn't apply to me. Right. And that's why it's part of the reasons why I'm such a stickler and such an advocate to putting the round pegs in the round holes or putting the square pegs in the square holes and trying to do the best that I can to make things fit where they're supposed to. Because if we continuously tell people you don't need money or credit to get in this business, again, it works, it works, it works. But if we don't tell them how or why it can work, I think that's the part that gets missed. Many people say, okay, these people were successful with no money and no credit, right? But the story doesn't always get told. The full idea doesn't always get told of what it takes to do deals that way, right? There has to be somebody's money, and in many cases, somebody's credit. Those things have to happen, like, or unless you know how to negotiate with a seller to give you a property, and I'm using air quotes, for free, right? And I've had situations where I've had sellers sign over properties and give them to me for free. Didn't require any money, didn't require any credit, but it did require the knowledge of how to make that type of transaction happen, right? And in those cases, you got to know somebody that can show you how, right? Or at least pay attention to how it can be done. Um, Shalette says the how is the main ingredient. It's the main ingredient. I agree. Again, Shalette, you on the road today. I agree that it's the main ingredient because if you don't know how, why you want to do it don't matter. Why you want to do it don't matter. If you start with the why, the how can work itself out, right? Because if you have a big enough why, you're going to do what you have to do to get to the point of knowing how, right? And that's if it means studying for 2 years like I did, or eventually getting a mentor to help you like I eventually did, right? That's the how. The how can get you to the what, which is making significant income in real estate, right? But these things go hand in hand. And again, I agree. How can is the main ingredient, right? When you're talking about doing business with nothing, when you start with, there nothing is relative. I'll say nothing in terms of what the investment should or could be. When you start with that idea and not know how, you're setting yourself up for failure. So I want to open up for questions. I haven't gotten any questions. No one has asked any questions about anything or the things that I'm talking about. I answered the question from Bernardo earlier about what is MAO. Again, if you're watching, live now or you're watching this later, drop it in the comments. I want to hear from you all about your thoughts on the MAO formula. And if it's dead, or if it's still alive and why it's important or why it's not important. I'm curious to know your thoughts. All right, put it in the comments and tell me what you think about, how this topic of the MAO formula is no longer a necessity. Um, oh, the one thing I think I missed this. One of the big reasons. Oh my goodness, I missed this. I should have mentioned this a long time ago. One of the big reasons why a lot of people say the MAO formula is dead or no longer works is because of a lot of the what people are calling iBuyers, your Open Door, your Zillow, your different buyers that have come in, hedge funds that have come in and just bought up tons and tons of properties at whatever price, right? That's why a lot of people have gotten away from the idea of using the MAO formula, because it doesn't matter to a hedge fund investor, right? Many of them, they have to move money. Even if the profit margins are very slim, they have to move money in order to continue to get money from their investors. They have to give them some type of return, right? But what happened? If you're paying attention, a lot of the iBuyers have stopped buying because they had then become to have situations where the returns on their investors' money was beginning to be negative, right? You got to pay attention to these things. However, lots of wholesalers were winning because they were like, listen, I'm gonna mark this thing up $30,000. The hedge funds are not gonna care. They're gonna give me my $30,000 and they're gonna be happy with it, and they're gonna keep on going. That's not a long-term strategy, right? Now the hedge funds are backing out. Now you're back to the mom and pop shop investors who their profit margins have to be a certain amount for it to make sense for them to continue to do the business. Right? I want to make sure you all don't miss that. No, we're going to make sure we have to cut that part and put it back at the beginning. The hedge funds are backing out. A lot of them are. A lot of the iBuyers are backing out the way they were doing business and just buying at random. So now you got to go back to, Jimmy John investor or Luke and Laura investor. I'm making these names up, of course. You got to go back to these individual mom and pop investors that were or should have been a major part of the bread and butter that you were doing, and their profit margins have to make sense, right? They're buying one, two, three, maybe four at a time. They're not buying hundreds. So their profit margins have to make sense. And if their profit margins for what they're doing don't make sense, guess what, guys? They're not going to continue to buy. Ask me how I know, right? If their profit margins are at least somewhere in the ballpark of 15% net cash return, net return on investment, then they don't have a long-term strategy, unfortunately, because you got to look at the cost. You got to look at your taxes, the cost to sell, the holding costs. A lot of these hidden costs or what people would probably call blind costs that people don't pay attention to. A lot of these costs that are associated with buying, selling, fixing, holding properties are things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They just look at, I got a check for $50,000. Right. You just got a tax bill of 35% of that. People don't pay attention to those things, right? People see the checks online and they see the people going to closing. You can go to closing and get $500, right? It's exciting to still have the experience, but I don't want people to get caught up in the idea of, because they've seen people at a closing, they've seen people do deals, they've seen these exuberant checks where maybe four people are a part of that check. You see $20,000 and everybody gets five, which is still fine, but don't get caught up in the idea of that is the only way that things happen, right? And that's the way that people buy into this business, and they want to come in and they want to get something for nothing because they figure it's easy. A lot of people are bought into the idea of this being easy. It's still a business, right? It's still a business. And anything I know about business, it's not easy. It can be. It can be. You can get to the point of having things put together systematically, and it can be easy. But does it start out easy? No way. Unless you have someone to guide you through the process. to help you get through the process of the things that happen in the middle of these types of transactions. It can be simpler. I still don't say it's easy. I still don't say it's easy. Not in real life real estate investing, not in real life real estate investing, right? There are things that are simple, but I don't think any of it's easy. Once you can appreciate what comes with this business, you will get to appreciate what it took to get to where a lot of people have gotten to. You don't get 20 plus years in doing this the easy way, right? The no money down, the no nothing involved mentality, right? That can happen. That can be a significant play, but I don't think it's a long-term play, right? And I say that having done that for 16 years. No money, no credit, did that for the first 16 years of my career. However, it was because of, again, I'll say ignorance that allowed me to get to the point of being able to do that, because I didn't know what I didn't know until I had somebody tell me, hey, listen, you don't know. Right? And when I come to understand what I didn't know about what I didn't know, I started appreciating this being a business all the more. And that's the thing that I want to be able to share with you, those folks that will get involved in this business and need to understand that it is a business and it's not something to be played with, right? And it's been around for as long as anybody knows, right? There's been land. There's been, at least when, God said, turn on the lights, he turned on the lights and he said, make it good and make the land. And he did all that. That's where real estate started, right? It's been around longer than crypto. It's been around longer than Turo. It's been around longer than these other different things, all these other options. It's been around a lot longer than a lot of these things, right? And I'm not saying those things are fleeting, because they are great ways to generate income. But real estate has been tried and true. And it will continue to be that way, because no matter how much money you make in crypto, you still got to have some place to stay. Right? Everybody's going to always have to have some place to stay. All right. So with that, I didn't get any questions. I didn't get anyone to, let's see if we got anything over here. No one asked any questions. I don't see any questions that have come through. Oh, we have Mr. Winston says, if you buy an investment property at market, how would you secure financing? If you buy property at market, I imagine at market meaning retail. How would you secure financing? It depends on what you're ultimately looking to do. If you're looking to, for something like that, if it's at market, you can get a bank loan, but you're going to have to put a significant amount down. Or you could go with a private lender where they could potentially finance the whole deal, but most people want you to have some type of skin in the game. But there are several options to get financing, even at retail, right? Most of the properties I look at doing retail, I negotiate seller financing. So the seller becomes the bank. And that's also what I'm going to be teaching as well, is teaching how you to buy properties and you become the bank, right? I'm going to be helping people that want to make money in real estate without the headaches of becoming a landlord, right? So that's something that I'll be teaching as well. But yeah, Mr. Winston, there's several different ways to secure financing on properties, even at retail, even at market price. And if you want to send me a direct message, I'll certainly share with you some of those ways that I could, potentially help you. And in those instances, I'm going to be real. It may require you having some decent credit, right? However, I mean, if you know of a private lender, I could potentially connect you with some that may not even look at your credit. So, and you may not have to have any money down. But I wouldn't suggest having that as the only idea. If you come in with the expectation you're going to need money, you're going to need credit, and you don't have to have money or credit, you're doing great. right? And that was where I was when I did my first property. I thought I had to have a ton of money. Well, a ton of money at the time for me was $2,000. I thought I had to have a ton of money to put down. It turns out when I went to closing, I only needed $84, right? But I prepared for the possibility of having to have that in place. And there's several different options that you can tap into that can help you prepare for the possibility. If you don't need 20% down, you're still winning, right? But if you prepare for it, the possibility, and you don't need it, then that's winning as well, right? And if there's any other questions, I'm actually up on my time, and I would like to answer any other questions if anyone else has them before I go. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. You're welcome, Mr. Winston. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll hang out for another few minutes. And I'm also told that I need to remind people of the, yeah, it's so hard for me to remind people of that. They say you got to remember, tell people that don't make a donation for the show. You know, Cash App Real Life Real Estate. You know, that's my producing team tell me I got to remember to do that. So again, if you're watching this on Facebook, you can share it here. If you're watching on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you see this on Instagram, you know, offer a follow. You can go and follow us. For those of you that are watching, go and follow me at Real Life Real Estate Investing. At Real Life Real Estate Investing on Instagram, and at Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime on Instagram as well. All right. And if there's no other questions, I will say thank you all for tuning in. And this has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, where we bring you real life real estate solutions. And I certainly thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you.